When I invited them to my son's graduation, my parents lied and went to my ex's daughter's recital instead. They posted, "Proud of our real grandchild." My son cried, asking why they hated him. My dad said, "We don't owe time to mistakes." I promised they'd regret it, and the next time they saw us, we were standing on a stage holding. I see them in the audience before I even walk on stage, their backs turned toward me. My parents. They lean in, whispering to each other, glancing sideways at my 6-year-old son. It hits me like a punch. They chose to sit at someone else's table. I freeze for a moment. Then I keep walking, holding my son's hand, up the steps of the auditorium in downtown Wilmington, North Carolina. The moment I first asked them to come to his kindergarten graduation was so simple. "Mom, Dad, you've got to be there. It means the world to him." But their answer, they were busy that weekend. They said they had prior commitments. I believed them, I trusted them. They are my parents, after all. I assumed they'd show up. Then I found out they weren't busy at all. I was scrolling through social media, just checking evening messages when I saw the photo. My dad's arm around his granddaughter from my ex-girlfriend's former roommate. His mom smiling, holding a program from the recital. The caption, "Proud of our real grandchild." Not mine, theirs, not my son. My son saw it too. He sat beside me on the couch that night, eyes wide, voice trembling. "Why don't they like me?" he asked it. My son, just 6 years old, and I had no answer. I confronted my parents the next day. I went to their house in Wilmington, knelt down in their living room. My mother shut me out, no answer, just the door. My father picked up the phone and blocked my number. He texted briefly. "We don't owe time to mistakes." They erased themselves from my world in that one sentence. I promised my son then, "They'll regret this." Not because of spite, because I refused to let my son believe he wasn't worthy. I refused to let my parents' hurtful decision define his self-worth. Weeks pass. I devote extra time to him, trips to the arcade, Sunday pancakes, teaching him how to ride his bike better than before. I whisper to myself, the next time they see us, the next time they look at us, things will be different. And then comes the invitation. The local community center in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, puts together a volunteer awards night. I've been helping in neighborhood cleanups with my son. I ask him, "Do you want to go?" He says yes. I send the invite to my parents, marking them as guests. "You're recognized for being an outstanding parent," the letter says. I know that's half the reason I dared to invite them, because they ignored me before. Now I'm making sure they see me. When we arrive at the center, I pad my suit jacket, straighten my tie, hold my son's hand. I walk onto stage. Their heads turn. The spotlight hits us. My son stands by me, clutching his little volunteer certificate. I wait. And then I speak. "My parents, if you would like to join me on stage." Their mouths open, they hesitate. The audience murmurs. My heart pounds. They look at each other. My son glances at them. I smile at him. They step forward, slowly, forced, unwilling. I motion to the seats. The announcer says, "And the award goes to father and son for community service." My parents' eyes flicker. I clutch the certificate, raise it high. My son beside me raises his too. The crowd claps. My parents sit rigid, swallowed by embarrassment or surprise or both. My son glances at me, says, "Did they see me?" I nod, he beams. I turn and face my parents directly, having them visible to the whole audience. I don't say anything loud, I don't need to. The message is clear. They know I invited them. They know they refused. They know the world is watching now. This is where we leave it for now. After that night at the community center in Rocky Mount, things changed between me and my son. Not overnight, but slowly. He started smiling more, sleeping better. He wasn't asking about my parents every week like he used to. And the moment he said, "Dad, I think they saw me this time," I knew we had crossed some invisible line, one I thought we'd be stuck behind forever. But even though he moved forward, I couldn't. Not all the way. Not yet. They never reached out. No text. No call. Nothing. My parents sat in that audience like statues. Not a word to me, not even after I handed my son that award and told the crowd we volunteered because family is what you make, not what you're handed. 3 months later, I took a new job up in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Same field, logistics management, but higher pay, better hours, and a fresh start. That mattered. Because deep down, I wanted to make sure my son would never need them again. We settled into a small rental house on West Ridgewood Drive. It had a yard full of walnut trees and one of those screened-in porches that made every storm feel like a movie. My son loved it instantly. He said, "It feels like a house where nice people live." We got into a routine: mornings with blueberry toast, afternoons at the rec center. On weekends, we built birdhouses for the neighborhood seniors, something he came up with himself. And then it happened again. One Saturday, I picked him up from a birthday party. He was quiet in the car, holding something in his hand. It was a crumpled piece of notebook paper, folded into quarters. "Dad," he said, "this was in my backpack." I opened it. It was a note from my mother. "You don't have to punish us forever. We've realized some things. Maybe we could start over. Maybe we were wrong about everything." No return address. Just signed Nana and Papa. That night, I stared at the note for over an hour. It was her handwriting, no doubt. But the timing, the delivery, putting it in my son's backpack without even speaking to me first, I wanted to burn the thing. I wanted to call them and unleash every word I'd been holding in since they posted about their real grandchild. But I didn't. Instead, I called an old friend, Mara. She used to live near my parents back in Wilmington. Ran the diner down on Castle Street before she moved out to Des Moines. We hadn't talked in a while, but she picked up on the first ring. "Mara, did my parents say anything about reaching out?" She hesitated. "They came through here a few weeks ago. They were asking about you, about your kid." "What they say?" "They said you've been brainwashing the boy, that you made them look bad in front of the town, that you—" I cut her off. "Thanks. That's all I needed." So that was it. They didn't reach out because they were sorry. They reached out because they were embarrassed. They were laying groundwork, rewriting the story. I made a decision that night. If they wanted to see my son again, it would be on my terms. And not quietly. Not privately. They had humiliated us publicly. They had cut us out, called my son a mistake, and chose to support a child from a woman I hadn't even dated in years, just because she was married to my ex's cousin now, and they liked her better. They wanted an audience? Fine, we'd give them one. That week, I submitted a story to the Cedar Falls Gazette. A simple one. A profile on a local father-son volunteer duo helping build birdhouses for senior citizens. I included a photo, my son holding a painted red birdhouse with the caption, "Sometimes the best family is the one you build with love, not blood." It went viral locally. The rec center got flooded with calls. People offered to donate supplies. A local craft store gave us free paint and brushes. Someone even set up a GoFundMe to build a small, tiny village of birdhouses in the local park. My parents didn't say a word, but I know they saw it, because 3 weeks later I got a Facebook message, from my father this time, one sentence. "You're making us look like monsters." I wrote back. "You did that yourselves." They blocked me again. But this time it didn't sting, because we were finally being seen, and not by the people who hurt us, but by the ones who truly mattered. And that's when the real plan began. A month later, I stood at the edge of the Cedar Falls City Park, staring at a half-finished wooden frame that was about to change everything. We were building something much bigger than birdhouses now. See, after the story ran in the local paper, people didn't just come out to support. They came out in person. One retired contractor named Bill offered to help us build a mini community art shed. A small open-air structure where kids could come build, paint, and create. We called it the Nest, my son's idea. I told Bill, "We don't have funding for that kind of thing." He smiled. "You don't need it. You've got volunteers. People believe in what you're doing." My son and I went every weekend. We helped with every board, every brushstroke. He was the youngest supervisor on site, and everyone knew his name. And while that was happening, I started planning phase 2. Because I knew exactly how to make my parents feel what they made us feel. Humiliation, regret, loss. Only I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to send bitter letters. I wasn't going to beg them to come around. I was going to do something they couldn't ignore. A few weeks into the build, I posted an announcement on my Facebook. In honor of all the forgotten kids out there, and the ones who were made to feel like mistakes, we're opening a permanent children's volunteer garden next to the Nest. Planting starts next month. Dedication ceremony the weekend after. All welcome. But the photo I posted, it had my son holding a garden shovel standing in front of a sign that read, "Planted with love, watered with purpose, raised with dignity." The post got over 5,000 shares in a week. Local radio picked it up. A reporter from Des Moines asked to do a human interest piece. And right on cue, the message came in. My mother saw the story. Can we come to the ceremony? No apology. No ownership. Just, can we come? I didn't answer. Instead, I made a decision they could come, but only as witnesses, never again as family. The day of the dedication, it was hot and bright. Over 100 people showed up. Kids were planting sunflowers and tomatoes. Families were painting their names on garden stones. My son wore a little button-down and a straw hat. He looked like he owned the place. I saw my parents standing near the back, not in the crowd, on the edge, like people who weren't sure if they were welcome. They weren't. The mayor of Cedar Falls showed up. I didn't even know she was coming. She shook my hand, took photos with my son, and said, "What you've built here, this matters." Then she handed me the microphone. I looked out over the crowd. I could have told the whole story right there. I could have humiliated my parents the way they did us, posted about real family and mistakes. But I didn't. Instead, I said this. Some people try to define your worth by the things they withhold from you, their love, their time, their attention. But what I've learned is that we get to define ourselves by what we give to others. And I gave everything I had to this boy right here, and I'll keep giving because that's what real parents do. I put the mic down. My son hugged my leg. The crowd clapped. My parents, they walked away. They left before the ribbon cutting, before the photos, before the press interviews. But this time, my son didn't ask why. He looked up at me and said, "They missed it again." And I smiled. Yes, they did. But we weren't done, not even close, because the very next week I got a call that changed everything. From a woman named Denise. She said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I'm the mother of the girl your parents called their real grandchild. I think you need to know what they've been doing behind your back." I closed my office door and put the phone on speaker. "Denise, I remember you. What's going on?" She sighed. Her voice was calm, but I could tell she'd been sitting on this for a while. "I wasn't sure if I should call, but after that garden story went viral, I figured you had a right to know." "Know what?" "Your parents, they've been lying to you. About her, about everything." She was talking about Amanda, the little girl from that recital, the one they posted about, the so-called real grandchild. I braced myself. "They're not just visiting us occasionally," she said. "They moved in with us 4 months ago." I didn't say anything, just let it sink in. She kept going. "They said it was temporary at first, then they started paying for Amanda's private lessons. They started introducing themselves to people in town as her grandparents. No mention of you, at all." I clenched my jaw. "They're living with you?" "Yes, but that's not even the worst part." She hesitated. "They've been telling Amanda that your son isn't really their grandson, that he was an accident, that you were a lost cause." My stomach turned. "I found out last week when Amanda asked me, 'Why does Papa say the other boy doesn't count?' I thought maybe she misunderstood. But then I found their group chat. They've been messaging friends back in Wilmington, saying things like, 'We're finally with the grandchild who fits our family.'" I couldn't breathe for a second. My hands shook. "I'm sorry," Denise said. "I thought you should hear it from someone who knows." I thanked her, hung up, and sat in silence for almost an hour. Then I made another call to Myra in Des Moines. "I need your help," I told her. "I want to show the truth. No more hinting, no more subtle messages. I'm done letting them frame the story." She didn't ask for details, just said, "What do you need me to do?" 2 days later, we had a plan. Mara used to be a videographer before she ran the diner. She still had all her equipment. Lights, mics, the works. I told her we were making a video not for revenge, not just for anger, but to reclaim the narrative. We called it, "Mistakes Don't Build Gardens." In the video, I told the whole story. From the graduation they skipped, to the social media post, to the day my son asked why they hated him. I told them what it felt like when a 6-year-old cried because his own grandparents didn't see him as real. And I ended it by standing in front of the garden, holding my son's hand, saying, "He's not a mistake, he's a miracle. And we'll never let anyone, even family, rewrite that." We uploaded it that night. By morning, it had 10,000 views. By noon, 100,000. People from all over the country started commenting, sending letters, sharing their own stories about being the forgotten child, the wrong kid, the mistake. It wasn't just a video anymore. It was a movement. Local news picked it up again. The mayor called me personally. said the city wanted to name the volunteer garden after my son, Eli's Hope Garden. And then, right on schedule, my parents reacted. This time, not with silence. They sent lawyers. I got a cease and desist letter claiming defamation. They threatened to sue me for emotional distress and character damage. I laughed out loud, because the only character damage here was their own. We didn't back down. Mara posted a full breakdown of the messages Denise sent us. Screenshots, timelines, proof, all legal, all clean. We stayed above board, but we didn't stay quiet. By the end of the week, they had deleted every social media account, closed off their profiles, moved out of Denise's home without saying goodbye. They tried to erase the damage, but it was too late. People saw who they really were. And my son, he stood taller than ever. But there was still one more chapter left. Because someone else had reached out. And this time, it wasn't just to talk. It was to invite us somewhere. Somewhere we never thought we'd be welcomed again. It started with a message from a woman named Carla, the director of a private elementary school back in Wilmington, same city where this whole thing began. She wrote, "Hi, I saw your video. I used to teach your son's cousin Amanda before I moved schools. What your family did to you, it's not okay. But I thought you should know there's a major alumni award ceremony here next month. Your son is technically eligible for a Spotlight Scholarship Award for community leadership. I think he deserves it. You're both welcome to attend." At first, I hesitated. Wilmington, again, that was enemy territory. Their old friends, their church groups, their social circles, all the people who saw their version of the truth first. The mistake story, the lie they told about us. But I asked my son, and he said one thing. "Do I get to show them the garden video?" That was it. We flew in a week later. I didn't tell anyone we were coming. We stayed in a small rental on the edge of town, quiet, low profile, until the night of the ceremony. Held in the big event hall downtown, same place they used to hold church galas and social fundraisers. Same place I'd once stood as a teenager, giving a speech about my college plans, with my father clapping in the front row. Now I was walking in hand with the boy he refused to acknowledge. The event was fancy. Lights, cameras, round tables with linen cloths. There were at least 200 people there. Business leaders, families, teachers, donors. And sure enough, my parents were there. I spotted them across the room, seated right next to the school board president. Of course they were, still in the inner circle. Still pretending they hadn't thrown their own blood away for appearances. They didn't see us at first, but they would. The host took the stage. Speeches began, then came the awards, academic, athletic, volunteer. Finally, Carla stepped up to the mic. "We have a very special Spotlight Award this year for a child who took pain and turned it into purpose, and for a father who stood beside him when others walked away. Please welcome Eli and his father." The room froze. My son squeezed my hand. I stood. We walked through the tables up to the stage. Every eye in the room followed us. And then they saw us. My mother's face dropped first. Then my father's turned red like someone had slapped him. We stood under the lights. Carla handed my son the award. He held it up, smiling. The crowd applauded, but I wasn't done. Carla stepped aside, gave me the mic. I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to speak, but I think it's time. Silence. "I grew up here, some of you know me, some of you think you do. I just want to say this, blood doesn't make family, love does. And when someone chooses to treat your child like they're invisible, like they don't count, like they're not real, you don't stay quiet. You don't let them win." I paused, then looked directly at my parents. "You could have been part of this, but you made your choice. You'll never get another chance." My voice was steady, calm, not angry, just final. The audience was dead silent. Then one person clapped. Then two. Then the whole room erupted. I turned and walked off stage with my son, right past their table. I didn't look back. Neither did he. We flew back to Cedar Falls the next morning. When we landed, Eli pulled the award from his backpack, held it up, and whispered, "They saw me. For real this time." And I smiled, because they had. And they'll remember that night for the rest of their lives, not because of what they lost, but because of what they threw away. And we were just getting started.